expecting the Messiah to appear at the particular time Jesus was on earth. Simeon and other Jews were waiting for Israel's consolation and Jerusalem's deliverance when the babe Jesus was brought to the temple. Luke 2:25-38. During the ministry of John the Baptizer, the people were in expectation about the Christ, or Messiah. Luke 3:15. Many, though, expected the Messiah to meet their preconceived notions. The prophecies in the Hebrew Scriptures showed the Messiah as coming in two different roles. One was humble, and riding upon an ass, whereas the other was with the clouds of the heavens to annihilate opposers and have all rulerships serve him. Zech 9:9. Dar 7:13. The Jews failed to appreciate the fact that these prophecies related to two distinct appearances of the Messiah, these appearances occurring at widely separated times. Jewish sources agree with Luke 2:38 that the people at that time were waiting for Jerusalem's deliverance. The Jewish Encyclopedia observes, they yearned for the promised deliverer of the house of David, who would free them from the yoke of the hated foreign usurper, would put an end to the impious Roman rule, and would establish his own reign of peace. 1976, Volume 8, p. 508. They tried to make him an earthly king. Job 6:15. When he would not fulfill their expectations, they rejected him. Evidently the expectation that the Messiah would be an earthly king was shared by John the Baptizer and his disciples. John knew Jesus to be the Messiah and the Son of God, having seen him anointed with Holy Spirit, and having heard God's voice of approval. John did not lack faith. Mount 11:11. So his question, are we to expect a different one? May have meant, are we to expect yet another one who will fulfill all the hopes of the Jews? Christ in reply pointed to the works he was doing, which things had been foretold in the Hebrew Scriptures. He concluded, and happy is he who has not stumbled over me. This answer, while implying that faith and discernment would be needed, would satisfy and comfort John, assuring him that Jesus was the one who would fulfill God's promises. Mount 11:3. Luke 7:18-23. Also, prior to his ascension, Jesus' disciples held the view that he would at that time deliver Israel from Gentile domination and set up the kingdom, restore the reign of the Davidic line on earth. Luke 24:21. Act 1:6. False messiahs. After Jesus' death, the Jews followed many false messiahs, as Jesus had foretold. Mount 24:5. From Josephus it appears that in the 1st century before the destruction of the temple in 70 CE, Textoi acute miritra longo, Methushal 389 lists 28 false messiahs between the years 132 CE and 1744 CE. Volume X, pages 252-255. Jesus was accepted as the Messiah. The historical evidence found in the Gospels demonstrates that Jesus was indeed the Messiah. Persons in the 1st century, who were in position to question the witnesses and examine the evidence, accepted the historical information as authentic. They were so sure of its accuracy that they were willing to endure persecution and die on behalf of their faith based on that assured information. The historical gospel records show that various individuals openly acknowledged that Jesus was the Christ, or Messiah. Mount 16:16. Job 1:41, 45, 49. 11:27. Jesus did not say they were incorrect, and on occasion he admitted being the Christ. Mount 16:17. Job 4:25, 26. Sometimes Jesus would not say pointedly that he was the Messiah. At times he directed others not to publicize it. Mr. 8:29, 30. 9. Job 10:24, 25. Since Jesus was present where people could hear him and see his works, he wanted them to believe on the solid basis of this evidence, so that their faith would be founded on their own eyewitness view of the fulfillment of the Hebrew Scriptures. Job 5:36. 10:24, 25. Compare Job 4:41, 42. Now the gospel record of what Jesus was and did has been provided along with the Hebrew Scriptures, which supplied abundant information about what he would do, so that individuals may know and believe that Jesus is indeed the Messiah. Joe 20. 31. See Jesus Christ. Metals. More than 75% of the more than 100 elements known to man are metals. Gold, silver, copper, iron, and lead are all mentioned specifically in the scriptures. The first biblical references to metals are in Genesis 2:11 and 4:22. In physical properties, metals are opaque, fusible, and ductile. They have a metallic luster and are usually good conductors of heat and electricity. Chemically and physically, the metals have certain distinguishing characteristics. For specific information and the scriptural occurrences, see the above-mentioned metals under their individual names. Also the heading refine, refiner. Metal worker. One who casts, hammers, carves, engraves, or otherwise works with metals. ISWA 41. 7. The first forger of every sort of tool of copper and iron in recorded history was Tubal-Cain. GE 4. 22. Ancient metal workers made tools, household items, weapons, armor, musical instruments, ornaments, and figurines. Besides fashioning new items, they also did repair work. 2ch 24. 12. Many were specialists in working such metals as gold Ne3. 8, 31, 32, silver JG 17. 4. Ac 19. 24, or copper 2T4. 14. At times they formed a kind of association or guild. Ne3. 31. Ac 19. 24-28. Their trade called for skill in artistic design. The Israelites may have had knowledge of metalworking prior to their entry into Egypt, or possibly they acquired it there. By the time of the Exodus, they had ability to fashion a molten calf and a copper serpent. X 32. 4. New 21. 9. More impressive, however, was the production of various metal items for the tabernacle service. Bezalel and his assistants were aided by Jehovah's Spirit in their metalworking. X 31. 2, 3. 35. 30-35. Later, when oppressed by the Philistines, the Israelites were not allowed to have their own metal workers. This measure prevented them from making weapons. 1 13. 19-22. Doubtless for similar reasons, Nebuchadnezzar took the metal workers and other craftsmen captive the first time he assaulted Jerusalem. 2 Chi 24. 14, 16. J 24. 1. 29. 1, 2. Methegama meth, for example, in Ma bridle of Amma, possibly, Cubit. A place taken from the Philistines by King David. 2 8. 1. Since no site by that name is known, Methegama may well be a figurative term designating one of the principal Philistine cities. The parallel passage at 1 Chronicles 18. 1 says, Gath and its dependent towns. At 2 Samuel 8. 1. The American Standard Version evidently o textoi acute muritra longo, munim 390 munim me middle dot unim. On the basis of the name, the Munim are considered to have been an Arabian people residing in and around Maran, a city about 32 kilometers 20 miles of Petra. Judean King Uzziah 829-778 BCE with Jehovah's help, successfully warred against the Munim. 2 Ch 26. 1, 7. Perhaps at that time some of the Munim captives were constituted temple slaves, and therefore, their descendants are later listed among the Nethinim returning from Babylonian exile. As 2. 1, 2, 43, 50. Ne 7. 52. Compare PS 68. 18. During Hezekiah's reign 745-717 BCE, a band of Simeonites struck down the Hamites and the Munim in the vicinity of Dor. 1 Ch 4. 24, 39-41. Seamonim. Mezahab Mesa middle.hab waters of gold. Parent of Matred and ancestor perhaps, ancestress of Mehetabel, the wife of Hadad, the last named of the kings of Edom. GE 36. 31, 39. 1 Ch 1. 50. Mezabate me middle.zoba middle.ite of belonging to Zoba. A term alluding to the home of Jahaziel. 1ch 11. 47. Mezuzah middle dot zuzah. Anglicized form of the Hebrew word used in the Bible generally to designate a door or jam or doorpost. Mezu middle dot zah and the plural mezu middle dot zot appear at Exodus 12. 7 ftn, 22, 23, with reference to the sprinkling of the Passover victim's blood on doorposts, and at Exodus 21. 6, regarding a slave who, desiring to remain in his master's service, was brought up against the door or the doorpost and had his master pierce his ear with an awl. References are also made to doorposts of the temple constructed by Solomon 1:6. 31, 33. 7. 5 and of the symbolic temple Ezekiel saw in vision. Es 41. 21. 45. 19. 46. 2. In modern times the anglicized term mezuzah is used to denote a rectangular piece of parchment containing the Hebrew text of Deuteronomy 6. 4-9 and Deuteronomy 11. 13-21, generally written in 22 lines. The parchment is rolled up and placed in a wooden, metal, or glass case that is affixed in a slanting position on the right-hand doorpost of Orthodox Jewish dwellings, the upper part pointing inward and the lower part outward. The Hebrew word shad middle dot di meaning Almighty is written on the back of this parchment and is frequently visible through a glass-covered opening in the container. Sometimes the mezuzah case is artistically decorated. When pious Orthodox Jews enter or leave a house, they touch the mezuzah with the hand and recite the prayer, "May God keep my going out and my coming in from now on and evermore." Compare PS 121. 8. The use of the mezuzah is based on a literal interpretation of the command at Deuteronomy 6. 9 ftn and 11. 20. Mib from a root that means choose. Son of Hagri. One of the mighty men of David's military forces. 1ch 11. 26, 38. Some have suggested that there is a discrepancy in the text at 1 Chronicles 11. 38 because Bani the Gadite, not Mibah, is mentioned in a parallel list at 2 Samuel 23. 36. They hold that Mibah is an alteration of the Hebrew for from Zoba and that the final words of 1 Chronicles 11. 38 resulted, because of reading Ben-Hamidl.Rea son of Hagri for B.A. Middle.N.I. Middle.Gad Bani the Gadite. This remains conjectural. Mibsam perfumed. Balsam oil. Spicy. 1. One of the sons of Ishmael and founder of a family. GE 25. 13. 1ch 1. 29. 2. A descendant of Simeon. 1ch 4. 24, 25. Mibzah possibly meaning fortification. One of the sheiks of Edom, or Esau. The name Mibzah perhaps also came to apply both to his descendants and the place they settled. GE 36. 40, 42. 1ch 1. 53. Micah shortened form of Michael or Micaiah. The English names Micah and Micah have resulted from a minor difference in the Hebrew spelling. 1. Son of Mephibosheth Nerib-Baal and grandson of King Saul's son Jonathan. Micah, also called Micah, was the father of Pithan, Melech, Tereatariah, and Ahaz. 2 Sa 9. 12. 1ch 8. 33-35. 9. 39-41. 2. One of the Levites or the forefather of one attesting by Silotext to acute Miritra Longo, Micah, Book of 391 Smith, who made a carved image and a molten statue that afterward came to be in Micah's house. Micah, who had a house of gods, made an ephod and teraphim and empowered one of his sons to act as priest for him. Although this arrangement was ostensibly to honor Jehovah, it was grossly improper, for it violated the commandment forbidding idolatry x 20. 4-6 and bypassed Jehovah's tabernacle and his priesthood. JG 17. 1-6. A 12. 1-14 later, Micah took Jonathan, a descendant of Maz's son Gershom, into his home, hiring this young Levite as his priest. JG 18. 4-30 Mistakenly feeling satisfied with this, Micah said, Now I do know that Jehovah will do me good. JG 17. 7-13. But Jonathan was not of Aaron's lineage, and thus was not even qualified for priestly service, which only added to Micah's error. New 3. 10. In those days, the Danites, searching for territory in which to dwell, sent out 5 spies, who eventually came to Ephraim as far as the house of Micah and got to spend the night there. While near Micah's house, they recognized Jonathan's voice, found out what he was doing there, and had him inquire of God so that they might know whether their venture would be successful. The priest told them, "Go in peace. It is before Jehovah that your ways in which you go." JG 18. 1-6 They subsequently spied out Laish and returned, telling their brothers about it, whereupon the 5 spies and 600 Danite men girded for warfare headed for that city. En route, as they passed Micah's house, the spies told their brothers about his religious articles and suggested their acquisition. The Danites took these and also convinced the Levite that it would be better for him to be a priest to tribe and family in Israel than just for one man. They then took him, the ephod, the teraphim, and the carved image and went their way. JG 18. 7-21. Shortly thereafter, Micah and a company of men pursued the Danites. Upon catching up with them and being asked what was the matter, Micah said, "My gods that I made you have taken, the priest too, and you go your way, and what do I have any more?" At that, the sons of Dan warned of possible assault if Micah continued following them and voicing protest. Seeing that the Danites were much stronger than his band, Micah returned home. JG 18. 22-26 The Danites thereafter struck down and burned Laish, building the city of Dan on its site. Jonathan and his sons became priests to the Danites, who kept the carved image of Micah, which he had made, set up for themselves all the days that the house of the true God the tabernacle continued in Shiloh. JG 18. 27-31. 2. A Levite of the Kohathite family of Uzziel, of which he was head, and his brother Ishmael II, when the Levitical service assignments were distributed by David. 1 Ch 23. 6, 12, 20. 24. 24, 25. 3. Descendant of King Saul. Son of Jonathan's son Merib-Baal-Mephibosheth. He is also called Micah. 1 Ch 8. 33-35. 9. 39-41. 2 Sa 9. 12. 4. A Reubenite who was the son of Shimei and father of Reah. His descendant Beerah was a chieftain of the tribe of Reuben and was taken into exile by Assyrian king Tilgath-Pilneser Tiglath-Pileser III. 1 Ch 5. 1, 3-6. 2 Chi 15. 29. 5. Father of Abdon-Akbar. He is also called Micaiah, which is the longer form of his name. 2 Ch 34. 20. 2 Chi 22. 12. 6. Levite and descendant of Asaph. Any 11. 15, 17 He is also called Micah and Micaiah. 1 Ch 9. 15. Any 11. 22. 12. 35. 7. Writer of the Bible book bearing his name and a prophet of Jehovah during the reigns of kings Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah of Judah 777-717 BCE. Micah was a contemporary of the prophets Hosea and Isaiah. The exact duration of his prophetic activity is uncertain. His prophesying apparently closed by the end of Hezekiah's reign, when the composition of the prophet's book was completed. Mic 1. 1. Ho 1. 1. Issa 1. 1. Micah was a native of the village of Moresheth, of Jerusalem. O textoi acute miritra longo. Micah's prophetic words regarding Samaria's desolation must have been delivered before that city's destruction in 740 BCE, and evidently his oral pronouncements were committed writing before the close of Hezekiah's reign. Deplorable moral conditions prevailed among the people of Israel and Judah in Micah's time. The leaders oppressed the people, especially the poor. Judges, priests, and prophets were out for money. Idolatry, fraud, oppression, injustices, and bloodshed abounded. It was precarious to trust even confidential friends and family members. Mic 1. 7. 2. 1, 2. 3. 1-3, 9-12. 6. 12. 7. 2-6. The book of Micah candidly portrays the wrongs of Israel and Judah, while foretelling desolation for Samaria and Jerusalem on account of their transgressions. Mic 1. 5-9. 3. 9-12, it also contains promises of restoration and divine blessings to follow. 4. 1-8. 5. 7-9. 7. 15-17. The authenticity of this book is well established. It harmonizes with the rest of the scriptures in showing Jehovah to be a merciful and loving God, pardoning error and passing over transgression. Mic 7. 18-20. Compare X 34. 6, 7. PS 86. 5. From earliest times the Jews accepted this book as authentic. About a century after Micah's time, his words spoken during Hezekiah's reign about the desolation of Jerusalem were quoted by certain older men of Judah when making a point in defense of Jeremiah the prophet. J 26. 17-19. Compare Mic 3. 12. Centuries afterward, the Jewish chief priests and scribes, on the basis of Micah's prophecy, confidently stated that the Christ was to be born in Bethlehem. Mount 2. 3-6. Compare Mic 5. 2. A fulfillment of prophecies respecting Samaria, Jerusalem, and the Messiah, or Christ, stamped this book as being inspired of God. Noteworthy, too, is the fact that Jesus' words about a man's enemies being persons of his household parallel Micah 7. 6. Mount 10. 21, 35, 36. Micaiah me middle.Kaya who is like Jehovah. 1. Wife of King Hoboam, daughter of Uriel of Gibeah, and the mother of King Abijah of Judah. She's also called Maacah. 2ch 11. 18, 20. 13. 1, 2. Micaiah 392 a candid statement of the wrongdoing of Israel and of Judah, a forecast of desolation for Samaria and Jerusalem, and promises of restoration covers a period leading up to and possibly following the desolation of Samaria in 740 BCE. Wrongdoing of Israel and Judah is contrasted with Jehovah's righteous requirements. Oppressors lie in bed, plotting to seize homes and fields. When day dawns, they carry out their schemes too. 1, 2 unsuspecting passers-by are robbed. Women and children are victimized too. 8, 9 those responsible for administering justice exploit the people as though they were animals. 3. 1-3 false prophets call out, peace. But they sanctify war against anyone that does not put something into their mouths. 3. 5 judges, priests, and prophets are solely out for gain, yet they claim Jehovah's support. 3. 9-11 loyal ones are virtually non-existent. Princes and judges seek bribes, and not even family members can be trusted. 7. 1-6 Jehovah delivered his people from Egypt, and guided and protected them. No amount of sacrificing will compensate for their revolt. 6. 3-7 He requires that his people exercise justice, love kindness, and walk modestly with him. 6. 8 Jehovah's judgments against Israel. Judah, too, will be affected. Jehovah's judgment will result in Samaria's being reduced to a heap of ruins. The disaster will reach even as far as Judah and Jerusalem. 1. 3-16 Calamity will come upon Israel. Her fields will be apportioned to others too. 3-5 Jehovah will strike his people. They will eat but not get filled, they will sow seed but not enjoy any fruitage. 6. 13-16 Remnant will be gathered and true worship exalted. The remnant of Israel will be gathered together like a flock in the pen, with their king before. O textoi acute miritra longo. Michael 393-2. Son of Imlah and a prophet of Jehovah to the northern kingdom of Israel during King Ahab's reign. 1 Kai 22. 8 While King Jehoshaphat of Judah was visiting Ahab, the Israelite king invited him to join in a military campaign against the Syrians to regain possession of Ramoth-Gilead. Jehoshaphat accepted, but asked that the word of Jehovah be sought. So Ahab summoned 400 prophets and asked them, "Shall I go against Ramoth-Gilead in war, or shall I refrain?" They answered in the affirmative, saying that Jehovah would give the city into the king's hand. However, Jehoshaphat wanted more assurance, whereupon Ahab reluctantly sent for Micaiah, the prophet who had always prophesied bad for him. The dispatched messenger urged Micaiah to speak words to Ahab like those of one of the other prophets. At first Micaiah did so, but Ahab placed him under oath to speak truth in the name of Jehovah. At that, Micaiah said, "I certainly see all the Israelites scattered on the mountains, like sheep that have no shepherd." 1 Chi 22. 1-17. 2 Ch 18. 1-16. Micaiah then proceeded to relate his vision of Jehovah sitting on his heavenly throne and asking assembled spirit creatures, "Who will fool Ahab, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead?" One of the spirits volunteered to go and become a deceptive spirit in the mouth of all of Ahab's prophets. Jehovah replied, "You will fool him, and, what is more, you will come off the winner. Go out and do that way." Micaiah then told Ahab that God had put a deceptive spirit into the mouth of all his prophets, but Jehovah himself has spoken calamity concerning you. With that the false prophet Zedekiah struck Micaiah upon the cheek and asked mockingly, "Just which way did the Spirit of Jehovah pass along from me to speak with you?" Micaiah boldly replied, "Look. You are seeing which way on that day when you will enter the innermost chamber to hide yourself." Ahab then commanded that Micaiah be put in the house of detention, where the prophet would be fed with reduced allowances of bread and water until the king returned in peace. However, Ahab never returned, because during the battle at Ramoth-Gilead, there was a man that bent the bow in his innocence. The arrow struck the Israelite king, and he gradually died. Micaiah's final words to Ahab had been, "If you return at all in peace, Jehovah has not spoken with me." The king's death proved that Micaiah was indeed Jehovah's prophet. 1 Chi 22. 18-37. 2 Ch 18. 17-34. 3. One of the princes King Jehoshaphat sent throughout Judah as teachers, along with Levites and priests. They had the book of Jehovah's law with them as they taught the people in all the cities of Judah. 2 Ch 17. 7-9. 4. Father of the Akbar-Abdon who was sent, along with others, by King Josiah to inquire of Jehovah concerning the words of the newly found book of the law. He is also called Micah. 2 Chi 22. 12, 13. 2 Ch 34. 20, 21. 5. Son of Gemariah the son of Shaphan. He was present in the dining room of his father, Gemariah, when Baruch publicly read there the roll containing Jehovah's words through Jeremiah against Israel, Judah, and all the nations. After hearing this message, Micaiah reported what he heard to King Jehoiakim's secretary and princes. 36. 2, 9-13. 6. Ancestor of the priest Zechariah, the latter being among those with trumpets at the inaugural ceremony of Jerusalem's rebuilt wall. He is also called Micah. Any 11. 22. 12. 31, 35. 7. A priest among those with trumpets who played in one of the two thanksgiving choirs participating in the inaugural march for Jerusalem's rebuilt wall in Nehemiah's day. Any 12. 40, 41. Michael Michal who is like God. 1. The only holy angel other than Gabriel named in the Bible, and the only one called Archangel. Jude 9. The first occurrence of the name is in the 10th chapter of Daniel, where Michael is described as one of the foremost princes. He came to the aid of Otextoi acute miritra longo. Michael 394. It is only logical, therefore, that the voice expressing this commending call be described by word that would not diminish or detract from the great authority that Christ Jesus now has as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Mount 28. 18. Re 17. 14. If the designation archangel applied, not to Jesus Christ, but to other angels, then the reference to an archangel's voice would not be appropriate. In that case it would be describing a voice of lesser authority than that of the Son of God. There are also other correspondences establishing that Michael is actually the Son of God. Daniel, after making the first reference to Michael 10:13, recorded a prophecy reaching down to the time of the end 11:40 and then stated, "And during that time Michael will stand up, the great prince who is standing in behalf of the sons of Daniel's people." 12:1 Michael's standing up was to be associated with a time of distress such as has not been made to occur since there came to be a nation until that time. 12:1 In Daniel's prophecy, standing up frequently refers to the action of a king, either taking up his royal power or acting effectively in his capacity as king. 11. 2-4, 7, 16b, 20, 21 This supports the conclusion that Michael is Jesus Christ, since Jesus is Jehovah's appointed king, commissioned to destroy all the nations at Ha-Magedon. Re 11. 15. 16. 14-16. The Book of Revelation 12. 7, 10, 12 specifically mentions Michael in connection with the establishment of God's kingdom and links this event with trouble for the earth. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels battled with the dragon, and the dragon and its angels battled. And I heard a loud voice in heaven say, "Now have come to pass the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ, because the accuser of our brothers has been hurled down. On this account be glad, you heavens and you who reside in them. Woe for the earth and for the sea." Jesus Christ is later depicted as leading the heavenly armies in war against the nations of the earth. Re 19. 11-16 This would mean a period of distress for them, which would logically be included in the time of distress that is associated with Michael's standing up. 12. 1 Since the Son of God is to fight the nations, it is only reasonable that he was the one who with his angels earlier battled against the superhuman dragon, Satan the devil, and his angels. In his pre-human existence Jesus was called the Word. Job 1:1 He also had the personal name Michael. By retaining the name Jesus after his resurrection Act 9:5, the Word shows that he is identical with the Son of God on earth. His resuming his heavenly name Michael and his title or name the Word of God Re 19:13 ties him in with his pre-human existence. The very name Michael, asking as it does, who is like God, points to the fact that Jehovah God is without like, or equal, and that Michael his archangel is his great champion or vindicator. 2. The father of chieftain Sether of the tribe of Asher, who was one of the 12 sent to spy out Canaan. New 13:2-13. 3. Forefather of Asaph. Of the family of Gershom, the son of Levi. 1 Ch 6. 39, 40, 43. 4. One of the heads of the tribe of Issachar. Of the family of Tola. 1 Ch 7. 1-3. 5. A chieftain of the tribe of Manasseh who deserted to David at Ziklag. 1 Ch 12. 20. 6. The father of Omri, the head of a paternal house of Issachar during David's reign. 1 Ch 27. 18. 7. One of the sons of King Jehoshaphat of Judah who, together with his brothers, received costly gifts and fortified cities from their father. However, when his older brother Jehoram became king, Jehoram killed all his 6 younger brothers, including Michael. 2 Ch 21. 1-4. 8. A Gadite and descendant of Buz. An ancestor of No. 9, at least 5 generations removed. 1 Ch 5. 11, 13, 14. 9. A Gadite, first of 7 sons of Abiel, O textoi acute miritra longo, Michmas H 395 vid reached a peak. Michael helped David escape the king's wrath. During David's long absence, Saul gave her in marriage to Paul to the son of Laish from Galim. 1 19. 11-17. 25. 44. When Abner later sought to conclude a covenant with David, David refused to see him unless he brought Michael with him. David, by messenger, presented his demand to Saul's son Ishbosheth, and Michal was taken from her husband Paltiel and was returned to David. 2 3. 12-16. Punished for disrespect to David. When David as king had the Ark of the Covenant brought to Jerusalem and displayed his joy for Jehovah's worship by dancing exuberantly, being girded with an ephod of linen, Michal observed him from a window and began to despise him in her heart. Upon David's return to his household, Michal expressed her feelings sarcastically, revealing a lack of appreciation of the kind of zeal David had displayed for Jehovah's worship and indicating that she felt he had acted in an undignified manner. David then rebuked her and also evidently penalized her by having no further sexual relations with her, so that she died childless. 2 6. 14-23. Rears her sister's children. The account at 2 Samuel 21. 8 speaks of the 5 sons of Michal the daughter of Saul whom she bore to Adriel, these being among the members of Saul's household whom David gave to the Gibeonites in atonement for Saul's attempt to annihilate them. 2 21. 1-10 The apparent conflict between 2 Samuel 21. 8 and 2 Samuel 6. 23, which shows that Michal died childless, may be resolved by the view taken by some commentators, namely, that these children were the 5 sons of Michal's sister Merab and that Michal raised them following the early death of their mother. See Merab. Michmash laid up, that is, concealed place. A site identified with modern Michmash on a hill about 600 meters, 2,000 feet above sea level and some 11 kilometers 7 mi of Jerusalem. It lies end of the Wadi Sawan near Hal Michmash, considered to be the ravine pass of Michmash. 1 13. 23 Joined by other wadis from the Sand NW, Wadi Sawan extends from the Mount Venus region of Ephraim to the Jordan Valley. Doubtless preparing to free Israel from Philistine control, King Saul selected a force of 3,000 men. Of these, 2,000 encamped with him at Michmash and in the Mount Venus region of Bethel, and the others took their position with his son Jonathan at Gibeah. Later, at nearby Gibeah, VG, Jonathan struck down the Philistine garrison. In retaliation the Philistines rallied a great army, including chariots and horsemen, and apparently forced Saul to retreat from Michmash to Gilgal. Hard pressed by the Philistines, many Israelites hid themselves in caves and hollows. Others sought refuge of the Jordan. This dispersal of the Israelite warriors in the face of the Philistine threat was later presented by Saul as his reason for failing to wait obediently for Samuel to offer sacrifice. Reproved by Samuel for his presumptuous act, Saul, with a reduced force of about 600 men, thereafter came to Jonathan at Gibeah. 1 13. 1-16 According to 1 Samuel 14. 2. Saul evidently transferred his camp to Migron near Gibeah. Jonathan initiates rout of Philistines. Because 3 bands of Philistine pillagers would go out from their camp at Michmash and an outpost of the Philistines would sally forth to the ravine pass of Michmash, Jonathan decided to end this menace. 1 13. 16-23 To do this, he crossed the ravine pass, which if Wadi Sawan forms a deep gorge with nearly vertical cliffs to the east of Jebel. 2 prominent hills with steep rocky sides rise at a point where the Wadi Sawan makes a sharp bend. These may be the tooth-like crags Bozez and Sneh, their tooth-like edges having perhaps been rounded by the erosive forces of some 30 centuries. 1 14. 1-7 For a stranger to have made his way through the maze of mounds, knolls, Otextoi acute Miritra Longo, Michmethat 396 equipped with Philistine weapons found at the site, pursued the fleeing enemy forces. Joined by Israelites who had gone into hiding and those who had sided with the Philistines, they kept striking down the Philistines from Michmash to Ajalon. 1 14. 15-23, 31. According to 1 Samuel 13. 5. The Philistine forces at Michmash included 30,000 war chariots. This number is far greater than that involved in several other military expeditions compared JG 4. 13. 2 ch 12. 2, 3. 14. 9, and it is hard to imagine how so many war chariots could have been used in Mount Venus terrain. For this reason 30,000 is generally viewed as a scribble error. The Syriac Peshitta and the Lagardine edition of the Greek Septuagint read 3,000, and numerous Bible translations follow this rendering. At JB, Mo. However, even lower figures have been suggested. Centuries later, the prophecy of Isaiah mentions Michmash as the place where the conquering Assyrian would deposit his articles. Issa 10. 24-28 After the Israelite returned from Babylonian exile in 537 BCE, Michmash was apparently reoccupied by Benjamites. As 2. 1-2, 27. NE 7. 31. 11. 31. Michmethath Michmiddle.Methath. A site on the boundary between Ephraim and Manasseh. It is identified with Kbatulagil, a short distance east of Shechem. This agrees with the biblical statement that Michmethath was in front of Shechem. Jos 16. 5, 6. 17. 7. Mitri possibly from a root meaning cell. A Benjamite and an ancestor of Elah who resided in Jerusalem after the Babylonian exile. 1 ch 9. 1-3, 7, 8. Middin. A place in the Judean wilderness. Jos 15. 20, 61 Middin is perhaps to be identified with Bet Abudabak situated in the low-lying plain called El Baki Abikali. The Valley of Acre. Near the NW end of the Dead Sea. Midian Middle. And Midianites Middle.Anites of belonging to Midian. 1. One of Abraham's sons by his concubine Keturah. The father of Ephah, Hanok, Abida, and Eldar. GE 25. 1, 2, 4. 1 ch 1. 32, 33 Before his death, Abraham gave presents to Midian and the other sons of his concubines and then sent them to the land of the east. GE 25. 5, 6. 2. The descendants of Abraham's son Midian are collectively designated as Midian and Midianites. New 31. 2, 3 At times the Bible seemingly refers to them as Ishmaelites. Compare GE 37. 25, 27, 28, 36. 39. 1. JG 8. 22, 24. This may imply that the descendants of Abraham through his sons Ishmael and Midian were much alike in their way of life, and there may have been a further amalgamation through intermarriage among the two peoples. It also appears that at least some of the Kenites were known as Midianites. Since the Kenites are already mentioned as a people before Midian's birth, this may mean that Miz's Kenite brother-in-law Hobab was a Midianite merely from a geographic standpoint. GE 15. 18, 19. New 10. 29. JG 1. 16. 4. 11. See Ishmaelite. Kenite. Being descendants of Abraham, the Midianites likely spoke a language that closely resembled Hebrew. Gideon, for instance, apparently had no difficulty in understanding the Midianites. JG 7. 13-15. 8. 18, 19 There is also a possibility, however, that Gideon learned the tongue of the Midianites, Israel having been under their domination for 7 years. JG 6. 1. The Midianites were primarily nomadic tent dwellers. JG 6. 5, 6. Hab 3. 7 But in Moses' day they are also reported as residing in cities. New 31. 9, 10 At that time they were quite prosperous, having asses and animals of the flock and the herd numbering into the tens of thousands. New 31. 32-34 Their riches included gold ornaments having a total weight of more than 191 kilograms 512 pounds t, valued now at over $2,150,000. New 31. 50-52. Apparently both men and women adorned themselves with gold ornaments, including nose rings and earrings. Midianite kings were arrayed in garments of wool dyed reddish purple, and even their otextoi acute miritra longo midwife 397,000 of Israelite males to become involved in sexual immorality and idolatry in connection with Baal of Peor. New 25. 1-9, 14-18. 31. 15, 16. 1 Co 10. 8. Re 2. 14.